How did Leo Tolstoy manage to write so many famous books? In this video, we'll explore how his life experiences inspired some of his most renowned works. Born on September 9, 1828, in Russia, Tolstoy was born into an aristocratic family with deep roots in Russian history. His father, Nikolai, had been a major general in the Imperial Russian Army, and one of Tolstoy's maternal great-grandfathers had been Prince of the Russian Empire. His mother, Princess Yulia, managed the family estate after her husband's death, when Leo was just 2 years old. She did her best to raise him and his siblings by herself. Leo and his older brother spent most of their early years being tutored at home. Their mother hired several tutors for them, but none of them could make much progress with the boys because they were too wild. The tutors would come and go, but Leo and his brother would remain unimpressed. Instead of studying, the boys preferred playing outside and getting into all kinds of mischief. They also read a lot, and this sparked Tolstoy's lifelong passion for reading. He loved reading adventure stories about heroes who went on quests and overcame obstacles. Tolstoy was particularly fascinated with the idea of honor and heroism, and these themes would become central to many of his future works. At the age of 9, he began writing stories of his own. He wrote in Russian because that's what he spoke at home with his siblings and parents. But at school, he was forced to learn French and German, and so most of his writing was done in those languages. His stories were often inspired by his own life experiences. For example, one of his earliest stories was about a boy who gets lost in the woods and has to find his way home. This was based on an incident that happened to Tolstoy when he was just a child. Another one of his early stories was about a group of children who play at being soldiers, and one of them is killed. This story was inspired by a real-life event that Tolstoy witnessed when he was 11. He saw a peasant boy who fell off a hay wagon and was killed instantly. These stories that he wrote as a child were often violent and disturbing. But despite this, his mother recognized his talent for writing, and she encouraged him to keep writing. At the age of 16, Tolstoy left home to attend university in Moscow, where he studied law and history. During his time at university, he continued to write stories, and he began to develop his philosophical ideas. One day, while reading a book about ancient Greece, he came across the Iliad and the Odyssey. These epic poems had a profound impact on him, and they inspired him to write his own epic poem. Over the next few years, he worked on his poem, which he called The Song of the Shirt. It's about a shirtless man who wanders through the Russian countryside looking for work. Along the way, he meets all kinds of people and he learns about their lives. The poem was a critical success when it was published in 1847, but Tolstoy was not satisfied with it. He felt like he had wasted a lot of time writing something that was not meaningful, and so he decided to stop writing poetry and focus on writing novels instead. Tolstoy's first novel, The Childhood of a Chieftain, was published in 1852. It tells the story of a young boy named Nikolai Rostov and his coming of age during the Napoleonic Wars. The novel was a success, and it established Tolstoy as one of the leading writers in Russia. But once again, Tolstoy was not satisfied with his work. He felt like he had not fully explored the characters or the themes that he wanted to explore. So he decided to write a sequel to the novel. The result was The Boyard's Son, which was published in 1854. This novel picks up where The Childhood of a Chieftain left off and follows Nikolai Rostov into adulthood. We see him get married and start a family, and we see him fight in the Russian army against Napoleon. The novel is full of action and adventure, but it's also a deeply moving story about love, loss, and redemption. Like his previous novel, The Boyard's Son was a critical success, but once again, Tolstoy was not satisfied with his work. He felt like he had not fully explored the characters or the themes that he wanted to explore, so he decided to write another sequel to the novel. The result was The Death of a Chieftain, which was published in 1856. This novel is set during the same time period as the previous two novels, but it tells the story of another character, Prince Andrei Bolkonsky. We watch him join the Russian army and fight against Napoleon. But as the novel progresses, he begins to lose faith in the meaninglessness of war and the corrupt values of the aristocracy. He eventually leaves the army and returns home to his family, where he dies. After finishing the trilogy, Tolstoy took a break from writing. He traveled around Europe and he began to develop his philosophical and spiritual ideas. He became interested in Eastern religions and he started to study yoga and meditation. When he returned to Russia, he began writing again. His next novel was War and Peace. which was published in 1866. This novel is set during the same time period as his previous 3 novels, but it tells the story of 5 aristocratic families during Napoleon's invasion of Russia. Through their stories, Tolstoy explores themes of love, war, peace, faith, and redemption. War and Peace is one of the longest and most epic novels ever written. It's over 1,200 pages long, and it has over 500 characters. Despite its length and complexity, the novel was a critical and commercial success. It made Tolstoy famous all over the world, and it established him as one of the greatest writers of all time. After finishing War and Peace, Tolstoy took another break from writing. He traveled around Europe, and he began to develop his philosophical and spiritual ideas. He became interested in Eastern religions, and he started to study yoga and meditation. When he returned to Russia, he began writing again. His next novel was Anna Karenina, which was published in 1877. This novel tells the story of 2 couples in 19th century Russia. The story of the first couple, Anna and Vronsky, is a tragic love story about a married woman who has an affair with a young officer. The story of the second couple, Levin and Kitty, is a more traditional love story about a country landowner and a young woman who he courts and eventually marries. Although Anna Karenina is a love story at its core, it's also a novel about a lot of other things. Tolstoy explores themes of adultery, social class, family, marriage, love, and death. Anna Karenina was another critical and commercial success. It made Tolstoy even more famous, and it cemented his legacy as one of the greatest writers of all time. In his later years, Tolstoy continued to write novels and short stories. He also began to speak out against some of the injustices he saw in the world. He became an outspoken critic of the Russian government and the Orthodox Church. In 1901, Tolstoy was excommunicated from the church because of his beliefs. Despite this, he continued to write until his death on November 20, 1910. He died at the age of 82. His death was announced around the world, and millions of people mourned the loss of the beloved author. So there you have it, the fascinating life of Leo Tolstoy. From his humble beginnings as a naughty schoolboy to his days as a world-famous author, Tolstoy's life was full of ups and downs, but through it all, he never lost his passion for writing and his desire to make the world a better place. What's your favorite book by Leo Tolstoy? Let us know in the comments below. Also, don't forget to like and subscribe so you never miss an upload. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.